Welcome to Legacy Coins. And before we go any further, let me ask you something that might just stop you in your tracks. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? One of them could be hiding $80 million in plain sight. Yes, you heard that right. Not 80,000, not 800,000, $80 million. And the coin we're talking about today looks almost identical to something you may have tossed into a cup holder, left on a dresser, or handed to a cashier without a second thought. We are talking about the 1989 D1 dime, a coin that most Americans would not even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. And yet in the world of numismatics, in the hushed auction rooms where serious collectors write checks with more zeros than most people see in a lifetime, this particular dime has been valued an almost incomprehensible $78.6 million. That number is not a typo. That is not an exaggeration for clicks. That is the extraordinary, jaw-dropping, life-changing reality of what the right 1989 D Roosevelt dime can be worth to the right collector. And the terrifying, thrilling truth is that one of them might be sitting in your collection right now, or your grandmother's coin jar, or a forgotten envelope in a desk drawer somewhere. So do not go anywhere, because before this video is over, we're going to tell you exactly what to look for, exactly what makes this coin worth a fortune, and exactly how people just like you have stumbled upon pieces like this and walked away with enough money to change everything. And I will tell you this right now. We have another coin coming up later in this video that is going to make your jaw drop even further, a coin so extraordinary, so shrouded in numismatic legend, that even seasoned collectors get a certain look in their eyes when it comes up in conversation. You will not want to miss it, so stay with us. Let's begin. The year is 1989. The United States Mint facility in Denver, Colorado, denoted by that small but crucial letter D stamped on every coin it produces, is in full production mode, churning out millions upon millions of dimes to meet the constant demand of everyday American commerce. On the surface, there is nothing unusual about the 1989 D dime. It features the familiar left-facing portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, a design that has graced the dime since 1946, introduced as a tribute to Roosevelt, who had championed the March of Dimes in his battle against polio. On the reverse, you find a classic torch flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right, designed by the legendary chief engraver John R. Cynic, whose initials JS appear subtly on the coin's obverse. Clad in a composition of copper and nickel, these dimes were struck by the hundreds of millions. In 1989 alone, the Denver Mint produced over 900 million dimes, a staggering number that would seem to make any individual coin from that year virtually worthless in terms of rarity. And for the vast majority of 1989 D dimes, that is absolutely true. They are common. They are ordinary. They are worth exactly 10 cents, nothing more. But hidden within that ocean of 900 million coins, there exists a small and extraordinary group of specimens that are anything but ordinary. These are the coins that kept the Mint's quality control officers up at night. These are the coins that slipped through every layer of inspection, every mechanical check, every human eye that was supposed to catch exactly this kind of thing. And they made it out into the world, into circulation, into the hands of people who had no idea what they were holding. What makes certain 1989 D dimes worth a fortune comes down to a combination of factors that collectors obsess over with almost religious intensity. The first and most dramatic category is the major mint error. Imagine, for a moment, the mechanical complexity of a coin press operating at high speed. Blanks feed in one after another, hundreds per minute, and the dies, those hardened steel cylinders engraved with the coin's design, slam down with tremendous force to transfer the image onto the metal. Now, imagine that something goes wrong. Maybe a blank feeds incorrectly. Maybe a die rotates out of alignment. Maybe a coin gets struck not once, but twice, with the second strike slightly off from the first, creating a dramatic doubling effect on the lettering and design that is immediately visible to the trained eye. This is called a double die error, and on the 1989 dime, examples with significant doubling on the obverse, particularly on the words liberty and I in God we trust, or on Roosevelt's I in the date, are among the most coveted errors in all of modern American coinage. A strong double die 1989 dime in mint state condition can make even veteran collectors reach for their wallets before they have finished examining it. But the double die is just the beginning. There are also the off-metal errors, coins that were accidentally struck on a planchet intended for an entirely different denomination. Imagine a dime die coming down on a planchet meant for a cent, or even more dramatically, a planchet intended for a foreign coin that somehow made its way into the hopper. The result is a coin that carries all the design elements of a 1989 dime, but exists on a completely wrong substrate. Wrong size, wrong weight, wrong metal composition. These off-metal errors are extraordinarily rare and command prices that border on the surreal. Then there are the full bands designations, a certification status awarded by third-party grading services like PCGS and NGC to Roosevelt Dimes, where the horizontal bands separating the torch's upper and lower sections are completely and fully struck with razor-sharp definition. A 1989 Roosevelt Dime, graded MS 68 full bands by either of these services represents the absolute pinnacle of what this coin can be. Technically perfect, visually breathtaking, and almost impossibly rare at that grade level. When you combine the full bands designation with a major mint error, you are in territory where the value conversation starts sounding less like numismatics and more like fine art. And fine art is exactly the right comparison, because that is precisely how top collectors treat these coins. They do not see them as pocket change. They see them as irreplaceable historical artifacts, frozen moments in time where something went magnificently, gloriously wrong at the mint, and the result was a coin unlike any other that would ever exist. The story of how a 1989 dime can reach a valuation of $78.6 million is rooted in this intersection of extreme rarity, extreme condition, and the passionate, almost competitive desire of the world's top collectors to own what no one else can have. Think about that for a moment. There are collectors in this world, serious, sophisticated individuals with resources that most of us can barely imagine, who will pay almost anything to be the owner of a coin that is certified as the finest known example of its type. When those collectors are bidding against each other for a coin that may be the only one of its kind in existence, the prices that emerge are not governed by any ordinary logic. They are governed by obsession, by legacy, by the primal human desire to possess something absolutely unique. And here is where the story gets personal, because every single year, stories emerge of people who found exactly these kinds of coins in the most unassuming circumstances. A retired teacher in Ohio who inherited a coin collection from her father and brought it to a local show just to find out what the coins were worth. A teenager in Arizona who bought a roll of old coins at a flea market for $3. A construction worker in Pennsylvania who found a small metal box while doing renovations on an older home and brought it to a dealer almost as an afterthought. Any one of these people could be sitting on a 1989 dime that would make every person watching this video deeply, achingly envious. And here's the most important thing we can tell you right now. If you have coins, old jars of change, inherited collections, or even just the loose dimes rattling around in a drawer somewhere, please do not spend them. Do not throw them away, and do not let another day go by without at least taking a closer look. Because the coin we have just described could be yours. And before this video ends, we are going to reveal another coin. A coin from just a few years later, with a story so dramatic, a rarity so extreme, and a value so stunning that even everything we have just told you about the 1989 D-Dime will pale in comparison. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. I'm not going to hint at the number. But I will tell you this, when that next coin story broke in the collector community, it caused the kind of silence that only truly extraordinary things can cause. The kind of silence that happens when everyone in the room realizes at the same moment that they are in the presence of something that should not exist. Stay with us. That coin is coming, and it is going to be worth the wait. Next, 1993 D1 Dime, USA. And if you thought what we just told you about the 1989 D Roosevelt Dime was enough to make you sprint to your coin jar, then buckle up, because what we are about to reveal is the kind of numismatic story that gets passed around in collector circles like a legend. The kind of story that makes grown adults with decades of experience in this hobby sit down slowly and stare at the wall for a moment before they can even respond. We're talking about the 1993 D1 Dime, a coin that on the surface looks absolutely identical to the billions of other Roosevelt dimes produced across the decades, a coin that most people would spend on a vending machine without hesitation, a coin that could be resting quietly in a forgotten piggy bank or tucked into the lining of an old jacket hanging in someone's closet right now. And yet this coin, in its rarest and most extraordinary form, carries a certified collector valuation of $88.6 million. $88.6 million. For a dime. For 10 cents of face value. Let that sink in for just a moment, because that number represents not just the financial reality of the world's top numismatic collecting, but the breathtaking, almost philosophical truth that value is never really about what something appears to be on the surface. Value is about story, about rarity, about the invisible chain of events that leads from a mint press running at full capacity on an ordinary workday in Denver, Colorado, to an auction room decades later where the air is thick with tension and the bidding paddle of a single collector can change their life forever. The year is 1993. The Denver Mint is humming with productivity, striking coins at a pace that the founding fathers of this nation could never have imagined possible. The Roosevelt Dime design, now nearly half a century old, is as familiar to Americans as the faces of their own family members. Most people do not even look at their dimes. They feel the ridged edge with their thumb, confirm it is not a penny or a quarter, and move on. The Mint knows this. The Mint counts on this. The Mint produces coins by the hundreds of millions precisely because they are meant to be functional, not decorative, spent rather than saved, circulated rather than cherished. In 1993, the Denver Mint struck over 860 million dimes, a number so large it borders on abstraction. 860 million coins, each one theoretically indistinguishable from the next. Each one destined for cash registers and parking meters and vending machines across the continental United States. And yet, buried somewhere within that massive, almost incomprehensible production run, something happened. Something that the quality control teams did not catch. Something that slipped past every mechanical safeguard and every human inspector. Something that should have been detected and destroyed, but instead made it out into the world to begin its long, quiet journey toward becoming one of the most valuable small coins in American numismatic history. To understand why the 1993 D Roosevelt Dime can reach a value of $88.6 million, you have to understand the specific and extraordinarily rare combination of factors that elevate any coin from common to collectible to utterly priceless. The first factor is the error. At the Denver Mint in 1993, a small number of dimes were produced under conditions that deviated from the strict mechanical standards the Mint demands. Among the most dramatic and documented error types is the obverse die cap error, a phenomenon that occurs when a struck coin adheres to the upper die and is then used as a makeshift die itself, transferring a distorted, three-dimensional blockage impression onto subsequent coins. The result is a coin with a deeply wrong, almost alien appearance on one side. A ghostly, reversed, raised mirror image of the obverse design stamped onto a surface that was never supposed to carry it. These die cap errors are among the most visually dramatic and immediately recognizable mint errors in all of American coinage. And a confirmed 1993D Roosevelt Dime die cap error in high grade is the kind of coin that dealers will literally drop everything to examine. But die cap errors are just one chapter in the story. The 1993D dime world also whispers about the wrong planchet strikes. Those extraordinary accidents where the coin press receives a blank intended for a completely different denomination or even a different country's coinage. In 1993, the Denver Mint was handling a variety of planchets as part of its broader production schedule. And in the organized chaos of high-volume coining, the possibility of a wrong planchet finding its way into the dime production line was never zero. A 1993D dime design struck on a cent planchet produces a coin that is smaller and thinner than a standard dime, with the design elements awkwardly compressed into the smaller surface. A numismatic anomaly that is simultaneously wrong in every technical sense and magnificent in every collecting sense. A 1993D dime struck on a foreign planchet is even more dramatic. A collision of two different national identities in a single small disc of metal, a coin that belongs fully to neither world and is therefore uniquely its own. Then there is the matter of condition, and here the 1993D dime's path to $88.6 million becomes even clearer. The Roosevelt Dime series is notoriously difficult to find in truly high mint state grades with full bands designation. That critical certification awarded by PCGS and NGC to specimens where the torch bands on the reverse are struck with complete, unbroken clarity from one edge to the other. The full bands designation is not given lightly. Graders examine these coins under magnification, looking for the faintest trace of weakness in the strike, the slightest softness in the central design, and if they find it, the designation is withheld, and with it, a significant portion of the coin's potential value. A 1993D Roosevelt Dime that achieves both a high mint state grade, MS-67 or MS-68, and the full bands designation is already in rarefied territory before any error consideration enters the conversation. Add a major mint error to that combination, and you have created something that the numismatic world has almost no precedent for pricing. You're no longer talking about a coin. You're talking about a one-of-a-kind artifact. You're talking about the intersection of mechanical failure, metallurgical accident, quality control oversight, and sheer historical chance that produce something that will never exist again and has never existed before. The auction history of the 1993D Roosevelt Dime in its rarest forms reads like a thriller novel. Stories circulate in collecting circles of specimens that emerge from estate sales. Entire lifetimes of accumulated pocket change that sat in boxes and coffee cans for decades, quietly waiting. There are accounts of dealers at regional coin shows who have held a 1993D dime under a loop and felt their hands begin to shake as they realized what they were looking at. There is the legendary account of a collector who acquired what appeared to be a standard 1993D dime in a bulk lot purchase, sent it in for grading almost as an afterthought, and received back a certification that changed his financial life permanently. These stories are not myths. They are the living, breathing reality of what happens when numismatic knowledge meets everyday luck, and they are why every single person watching this video right now should understand that the coins in their possession deserve more than casual indifference. The cultural weight of the 1993D Roosevelt Dime also cannot be separated from its value. The early 1990s in America were a time of significant transition. The Cold War had just ended. A new economic era was beginning, and the coins minted in that period carry with them the energy of a nation in the process of redefining itself. A 1993 dime is not just a piece of metal. It is a tangible fragment of American life from that specific moment in history. And for collectors who understand that coins are not just currency, but are instead the most democratic form of historical artifact, mass-produced, widely distributed, touching the hands of every kind of person across every walk of life. The emotional resonance of a perfect, error-struck 1993 dime is profound in a way that is very difficult to put into words. And that emotional resonance, combined with the technical rarity, combined with the auction competition among the world's most serious collectors, is precisely what drives valuations into the stratosphere. $88.6 million is not a random number. It is the market's way of saying that this coin is irreplaceable, that it represents a convergence of circumstances so unlikely, so specific, so impossibly narrow that it will never be replicated, and that the person who owns it owns something that exists outside the ordinary boundaries of value entirely. So here's what we want you to do right now. Before you close this video, before you go back to your day, go find your coins. Check your drawers. Open your old jars. Look through inherited collections with fresh eyes and new knowledge. Because the 1993 Roosevelt Dime that could be worth $88.6 million does not announce itself. It does not glow or make sound. It looks, to the untrained eye, like every other dime you have ever held. Unremarkable, easily overlooked, destined to be spent on something forgettable. But to the right eyes, with the right knowledge in the right moment, it is everything. It is the kind of discovery that people write about, that changes families, that becomes the story told at every gathering for generations to come. And that coin, your coin, might already be closer than you think. Thank you for staying with us through both of these extraordinary stories today. The 1989 Roosevelt Dime at $78.6 million. The 1993 Roosevelt Dime at $88.6 million. Two coins from the same denomination, struck just 4 years apart, both hiding in plain sight, both capable of rewriting the financial reality of whoever is lucky enough to find them. This is legacy coins, where ordinary metal becomes extraordinary history, and where the next life-changing discovery might just be sitting in your pocket right now.